listens a person. Right? So the idea is, and this is in Sahih Muslim, by the way, this is not some obscure narration, this is in the second most authentic book that we have of Hadith. The idea is that compassion and like humanity, right, extends, it's not zero sum. It's not like I can have it only for like the Muslim people dying. No, you can have it for Muslim people dying, and we should have it. That's part of our faith, actually, to have compassion for the suffering Muslims, to feel feel hurt when a Muslim person dies, but also feel compassion for someone who's not a Muslim who passed away, especially in like a tragic situation, right? This is the Prophet ﷺ has set that precedence for us, where he stood up to honor this person, and this is something that is an unfortunate, I think, misunderstanding of our religion, a misunderstanding of the idea of salvation. Yes, we are only allowed to pray for the person that we know died as a Muslim. Okay, what's in their heart, Allah knows best. Okay, but the person who died as a Muslim, we're allowed to and should pray for that person. Okay, the person who did not die as a Muslim, we are told not to pray for them. Okay. ما كان للنبي والذين آمنوا أن يستغفروا للمشركين ولو كانوا أولي القربى. The messenger and the believers, it's not appropriate for them to ask for the forgiveness, salvation, for the ones who have passed away, of the ones that are polytheists. Okay? That's an established thing. The Prophet ﷺ was said, I'm going to ask forgiveness from my uncle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, don't. Ibrahim said, I'm going to ask forgiveness from my dad. Eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, don't. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him where the grave of his mother was. And he was shown the grave. And then he asked Allah if he can pray for her. And he was told not to pray for her. Okay? That doesn't mean she died a non-Muslim, by the way. Her decision is to be determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember the first day we spoke about salvation, or the person going to the fire or hell. They would say, yes, we knew about faith, and we knew about hellfire, and we knew this, that, and the other, and then we rejected it, right? قَالُوا بَلَا قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ فَكَذَّبْنَا وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, right? And everybody has that fitrah that they'll be judged on. And there are people who will be tested on the Day of Judgment. Okay? So someone being told not to pray for, that doesn't disqualify them from paradise, because maybe their case is to be determined. Okay? And someone preyed upon does not qualify them to be automatically in paradise, just like the head of the hypocrites, Abdullah ibn Ubay. The Prophet ﷺ prayed for his janazah, and then Allah told him, don't ever do that again. Okay? So it's neither, like, the end result is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we're told on our end, from our vantage point, this person did not live and die as a Muslim, don't pray for them. Okay? Their matter is left to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is maybe even like a test of our commitment to the faith, right? That we commit to our faith, we believe in it. Part of it is, we stop where Allah asks us to stop. Right? If He asked us to stop here, we stop here. That's part of submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That doesn't mean that we don't feel compassion for that person. Like, we don't feel sorry for their tragic end. We don't feel sorry for their family. Doesn't mean we don't pray for their family. We should pray for his family. Imagine you're just put yourself in the shoes of that child who wakes up and now doesn't have their father, right? Any child, that's a tragic situation. Unexpectedly, it's just even worse, right? Just makes things so much worse. So just a few thoughts on Kobe's tragic end. Again, we ask Allah to give patience to his family and guidance to all who have experienced something like this. Any thoughts that other people had? That's not the topic of the halaqah.
No.
I have something else, right? But just it came about, right? And Hamza,
I guess one question is what's it called? That we know that children are innocent and that their death is that they're born upon fitrah.
Yes.
And that they're accepted to Islam. But at what point does that happen? Is that as soon as puberty starts that they are considered no longer ma'asum, or is it how long? Like, at what point exactly?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a child
Because his daughter was 13.
Yeah, right? So, a child in Islam is before puberty. Okay? And 100% the children of Muslims are in paradise. Like we know that because Ibrahim alayhi salam is, their souls are with Ibrahim alayhi salam. There's no difference of opinion. And even like the strongest opinion on the children of non-Muslims is the same, because they're born on fitrah. What they're doing is, like they have a blank, clean slate. Okay? What happens to the child who is like just at puberty age? Okay? Allah knows best, right? She lived only 13 years. How much time did she get to ever process her mortality, her commitment to faith? What message did she receive? Those are questions that Allah knows best the answer to. We don't know, right? As Muslims, we don't ever say this person, oh, he's not going to paradise, right? Unless Allah has told us, right? Unless Allah has told us Abu Jahl or Abu Lahab, Fir'aun, right? Or an enemy of the Prophet ﷺ, or somebody who is openly declaring themselves to be like rejecting the Prophet ﷺ, rejecting Islam, like a Islamophobe, or some, a person, even like a good person who says, I'm a Christian, I don't believe in Islam, right? They have rejected the faith. We don't have any qualms about that. But here's a child, and a person even, right? Elder person, Kobe. We don't know at the end what was their level of like receiving the message, particularly the younger, the daughter, right? And like her case is with Allah. Her case is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because it would be, like we said, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. Allah does not punish until the messenger or the message is sent. Right? And the people going to the fire of hell will say, فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. They will accept their flaws and their sins, and they will accept that they belong in hellfire. Right? So that's what we know for a fact. Everything else is TBD. Right? Other any thoughts or something? You know what I really felt bad about? Because I'm like the biggest, like, I have like a WhatsApp group of friends. And just like the day before, we were all like, there's like an anti-Kobe camp, and I'm like the ringleader of that camp. So we were all like posting snarky remarks about him. It's like, right? And then, subhanAllah, next day was this thing. And we all felt so bad, right? And that also makes you think, like we should think about what we say, right? And like, because that might be our, who knows, that might be the last words, right, that we have. It's just a reminder on many levels. Anyway, if you don't have any thoughts, I'll continue, inshallah. Clearly, some of us should think about this stuff more when it comes to athletes and whatnot. The one athlete I did cry when he passed away was Muhammad Ali. I was actually crying. Because even though I never saw him fight his fights, but I was very inspired by his biography when I studied in grade 10 history. That was my grade 10 history project. And I was very proud that here is this great man who's so proudly Muslim, and here I am like a grade 10 little kid hiding in the corners praying in like corridors, right? After that we're like, no, we gotta book a room and pray Jummah. And then that's what we did in our MSA in the high school. We started booking rooms and started doing Jummah, and we had to convince the principal. And inspired by Muhammad Ali, alhamdulillah, right? That was us, and many, many more were inspired by him. And he passed away. I was legitimately very sad. May Allah have mercy on him. Anyway, the ayah I was going to share with you, the topic which was about gender, the understanding of how gender plays a part in our faith. Okay, and does gender play a part in our faith? Firstly. How many people say yes?
I mean, like to a certain degree, I guess.
To a certain. Okay, let me rephrase the question because I think people are like not sure what to say. It's a trick question. I don't want to be tricked here. Is there are there different rules for different genders, for the two genders in Islam?
I say like they're treated equally, but in terms of like certain rules. Two different human beings, I guess, yeah.
Right. So, treated equally, I like that. Okay. I think I'm going to state the obvious. We do have different rules for different genders. You can see around the room. Sisters are wearing hijab. The men are not. Yes or no? Right? I wear a topi, but that's just, that's just a religious thing. I can take it off, but it's not like the hijab, right? It's not even like the beard. The beard is important, extremely important, but it's not. It's not, the level of importance is not like the importance of hijab. Isn't that right? Do you agree with this statement, or is that a controversial statement? Tell me if you think it's controversial. It's okay. There is differences when it comes to rulings. Okay, men have to pray at all times. Yes, sisters don't have to pray at all times. In fact, at a certain point, it's haram for them to pray. Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just joking. That's when a woman is on her period, she's not allowed to pray, right? And in fact, we believe Islamically, when a woman doesn't pray, she's following the commands of Allah and His Messenger, right? Yes or no? So it's like you're getting ajr for not praying, mashallah. So it's a good deal. Okay? I tell my wife sometimes, like, mashallah, you're sleeping, you're, inshallah, doing all this good, and I have to wake up for Fajr. Likewise for fasting, yes, in Ramadan. Likewise for Umrah and Hajj, right? Then there's other things like Imam, who leads the congregation, right? My daughter was asking me, why can't I lead prayer one day? She's small, so we say you're small, right? But that's a legit question that she has. How come I can't lead the prayer? That's a question when it comes to roles of how we see religious responsibilities being carried. Correct? Marriage and divorce. Is there like a little bit, or is there some, is the man more privileged in that relationship? In certain ways, most definitely, right? Because the rules of marriage and divorce privilege the man, but also add responsibility, like Spider-Man says, right? Great power comes great responsibility. So that definitely applies to marriage as well. But there is still a bit of a tipping of scales there, correct? Inheritance. Inheritance. Or actually before inheritance, divorce. If a sister gets divorced, she has to wait before getting married, remarried, yes or no? She does, right? How long?
4 months and 10 days.
That's if she's a widow,
Oh.
right? If she's a widow, then it's 4 months and 10 days, like a husband passed away. Okay? But if like the wife passes away, can the guy like marry right away? Like, yeah, Imam Ahmad actually famously buried his wife and on the way back got married. Okay, he's Imam Ahmad, man. He can do these things. He can pull that off. Okay. They didn't think it as insensitive at that time. Okay, like we would consider it to be like super insensitive. Okay, but at that time that was like, it's all good. Different times, folks. Different times. But Islamically, right, there is that piece. There is the piece of a woman who gets divorced or gets a divorce. She is the one who has initiated the divorce and then obtains it 3 months or 3 periods of her menstruation. She has to wait, or she's pregnant until she delivers. The man has no waiting period. You see? What about inheritance? Is there a difference? There's a difference, right? You're like, what? There's a lot of differences. But these are not like some hidden rules, like, or some like finer details. These are very explicit things in our faith, and part of our faith is to study them and understand the wisdom behind them, and also understand like what's up with this, like what's up with having this, and what does our iman actually mean in relation to all these things. Okay, I think maybe we'll do this as like 2 parts. part 1 today and part 1 tomorrow, where like all the rulings will go through, and then we'll talk more about like why is this and why is that. Like inheritance. The first time I was studying it, I was like, what's up with this, right? Like, why is the boy getting more than the girl, right? And the answer is actually, in a vacuum, it seems unfair. But in the system, it makes sense. You know what the system where this ruling comes in? Do you know?
The wife also gets a share from the husband. That's like the missing half, right?
Well, you can say the husband also gets from the wife.
Okay.
The system. Oh yes. Sister.
The husband has to take care of the family members.
Uh huh.
I don't know.
Correct. You are almost there, right? So the responsibility of the financial burden falls on the shoulders of the man in Islam. Okay, that's the husband, that's the son, that's the father, right? The financial, the person who puts the bread on or the food on the table, the one responsible for that is the man. Okay. Now, sometimes the man is a bum, unfortunately. Okay, and the woman is doing it. Okay, that is even worse for the man, right? Because not only is he like, a step below manliness, but also Islamically he's shirking his responsibilities. Okay, and may be questioned on the Day of Judgment for leaving his responsibility, just like you could be questioned about leaving his prayer or leaving, good deeds. Okay, so in Islam the system is the man is responsible, the son takes care of the parents' financial needs, and the parents are dependent financially. The husband is supposed to provide for the family. The brother is supposed to provide for other like siblings if he is financially capable and he's not compromising his own wife and kids' financial situation. The burden falls on the man. The woman can do whatever she wants. She wants to provide, alhamdulillah. Doesn't want to provide, alhamdulillah. Right? It's her prerogative. Okay? And as in life, often it takes two to make it work. Right? Like, husband and wife have to work together. Siblings have to work together. Right? All of the responsibility can't fall on one person. Oftentimes you need this to work together. But the question of who is held accountable by Allah, that's the man. And thus, the inheritance is given more to that child or that man, because he is going to be asked about, okay, you have to take care of this and that and this and that. It falls on his shoulders, right? Like my dad has 6 sisters, right? No other brother, okay? And they are mostly, two of them are kind of independent, 2.5 maybe, but the others are very dependent on him, right? And then my aunts have other kids who never got married, okay, and they're also all girls. So I'm like the only like boy in the family, and my dad's like, "Get ready, son." I'm like, "You better have some good inheritance for me to get ready, all right?" That's my counter to what. It's a bad joke, but it's okay. I'm glad you appreciate it. The point is, the responsibility of, supporting even like your extended family members, falls on the shoulders of the man. Of course, first step or the first one is his own family, his own wife and own kids. But that's why in that system it makes sense. The boy gets more because he has to take care of more, right? He has to provide for more. There's more mouths to feed for him, and he is responsible for more. And that's why it makes sense. If you were to do it the opposite way, then it's actually a somewhat of an injustice, right? How can you give me the same as, say, my sister, and then ask me to pay for everybody's bills? That doesn't make sense. So, if that we'll do that next class or next inshallah gathering where we'll go through all the different rulings and we'll say, well, how does this make sense Islamically, right? But today, I actually want to talk to you about something. An ayah. This is ayah number 35 of Surah 33. Okay, so if you go on Quran.com/33/35, you'll find this ayah. Okay, I actually encourage you, if you can, to open it, please. Okay, It's a very nice ayah. Quran.com/33/35. I see the projector here, but I can never figure out how to use it. Where is Hamza when you need it?
I think you have to connect through there, but I'm not sure how it's done.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I was like, what is this? I see the last time I saw that I was in high school.
Yeah.
What is that called? I don't even remember. The projector with the see-through sheets.
Overhead projector.
Overhead projector. Oh boy. I see a VGA cable input, but I don't see anything else. Who has a VGA cable output in the laptop? Okay. Western Ontario. Have to step your game up a little bit. Anyway, I'm sure you have devices and you can pull this out, inshallah, on your device. Okay? The ayah goes as follows. إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْقَانِتِينَ وَالْقَانِتَاتِ وَالصَّادِقِينَ وَالصَّادِقَاتِ وَالصَّابِرِينَ وَالصَّابِرَاتِ وَالْخَاشِعِينَ وَالْخَاشِعَاتِ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقَاتِ وَالصَّائِمِينَ وَالصَّائِمَاتِ وَالْحَافِظِينَ فُرُوجَهُمْ وَالْحَافِظَاتِ وَالذَّاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَاتِ أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. That's an ayah that's about half a page long. If you open the Quran's, like a standard Quran, this is half a page. That's how long this ayah is. The ayah says that the believing men, the Muslim men and women, the believing men and women, the humble men and women, the truthful men and women, the patient men and women, the men and women who have humility. How many? That's 6, right? The men and women who give charity. مُتَصَدِّقِينَ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقَاتِ. The fasting men and women. That's 8. The men and women who protect their chastity. Don't have affairs. They're not promiscuous. They stay within the bounds of marriage. Okay? The men and women who remember Allah a lot. How many? 10 categories. أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Allah has prepared for them a forgiveness and a great reward. Okay? This ayah is ayah number 35 of Surah 33. Right? Surah 33 is fascinating, by the way, because it deals with, like, the ayat before talks to the wives of the Prophet. Like, if you read the ayat, like 2 ayat before that, the wives of the Prophet are like being addressed and they're told, it's a very fascinating passage from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it actually gives us a glimpse on how, like, these women were so amazing. They're our mothers, we consider them to be our mothers, but they were still humans, and they were having, like, they had like different conflicting thoughts and opinions, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it very clear. You want you want the title of the mother of the believers for the rest of time? It's gonna be difficult, right? Don't expect pleasures of the world. The Prophet didn't have much. Whatever he got, either as through conquest or acquired, he actually would not hold on to it. He would give it away. Okay? Because when he passed away, sallallahu, he had like a shield and some like loose change, essentially. Okay? And he could have had a lot more, because there was a lot of conquest. There was a lot of expanding of the quote-unquote empire. But he never assumed it under his own personal control. It was the property of the Muslims at large. Okay? So he himself actually had very little, and the Prophet's wives were told, don't think just because the Muslims are getting in a healthier state, the Muslim state is getting better and better, that your financial well-being will also, improve with that proportionally. To the contrary, you will remain poor. But that's because you want to be the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and you want Allah's ayat to be recited and revealed in your houses, and you will have the title of the mothers of the believers till the end of time. Okay, that's the other side of the bargain. So it's very fascinating. But this ayah comes right after that. Okay, and this ayah in the books of tafsir, they mention how Salama, the wife of the Prophet Salama, قالت للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما لنا لا نذكر في القرآن كما يذكر الرجال. she asked the Prophet ﷺ, what's up with us not being mentioned in the Quran like the men are mentioned in the Quran? Okay? Who is she referring to as us? The women, right? Not just us, the mothers of believers, but us as in the women. She said, what's up with malana, right? Like what is with us not being mentioned in the Quran like the men are mentioned in the Quran? فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah, this one that we just read. Okay? This is something that Imam Ahmad has narrated in his book of Hadith, and An-Nasa'i as well has narrated. Okay? So that is Salama. Okay? She is who? The wife of the Prophet ﷺ. She had this question. Quran is recited in front of her all day, right? Revealed in her house. And her question to the Prophet is, why the men only, why not women? The response from Allah for that was this ayah. That 10 categories of excellent deeds. Deeds of the heart, like submitting to Allah, like having faith. Deeds of the body, praying and fasting, right? Deeds of what you could say like the soul, or like a mindset, right? Patience is a mindset, right? Humbleness is a mindset. It's not just all action. It's the way you see the world and the way you appropriately then act. All those things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to her question by saying, in all those things, men and women are the same. الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Another narration is أن أم عمارة الأنصارية أتت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت ما أرى النساء يذكرن بشيء. Okay, this is again in the book of hadith like Tirmidhi, and in books of tafsir like Tabarani. They mentioned that Umara, she is a lady of Medinan origin, right? Al-Ansariya, that means she was a native of Medina. She came to the Prophet ﷺ, and she asked the Prophet that ما أرى النساء يذكرن بشيء. She said, I don't see the women being mentioned in the Quran at all. So فنزلت هذه الآية. So the Prophet ﷺ responded with this ayah. Okay? It doesn't mean necessarily the ayah was revealed multiple times. It means that this question is asked and the Prophet responds with the ayah. Right? Another narration, this is a third lady here, okay, of the Sahabi. أن أسماء بنت عميس لما رجعت من حبشة مع زوجها جعفر بن أبي طالب دخلت على نساء النبي فقالت, I love this one, okay, this is like my favorite one. هل نزل فينا شيء من القرآن. أسماء بنت عميس, the wife of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Who's Ja'far? Ibn Abi Talib, yes. The Prophet's cousin, yes, but who is he the elder brother of? Ali. He's Ali's elder brother. Okay? And he is the same age as the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? Like give or take a few months or maybe even like a year, right? But they're essentially like the same age and they grew up together. Why did they grow up together? Because the Prophet ﷺ grew up in the house of Abu Talib. The Prophet ﷺ did not, his own father and mother passed away when he was young. His grandfather passed away when he was young. So the one who raised him was Abu Talib. And guess who is also in Abu Talib's house who's the same age as the Prophet? Ja'far. Right? So Ja'far and the Prophet ﷺ were cousins, but really they were like brothers. Right? As close to having a brother as you can think of was Ja'far. In fact, it is narrated that Ja'far looked very similar to the Prophet ﷺ. Like they looked very much the same. And you know, cousins sometimes are like that, right? The cousins look similar, but Ja'far was especially like this. Okay? And Ja'far was the one who the Prophet chose to go to Abyssinia, to Africa. The Prophet ﷺ is in Medina, is in Mecca, and he is getting like pressure is being put on him by his enemies of Quraysh. Okay, they're torturing Bilal, they're torturing Ammar and Sumayya and Yas. They're torturing anyone who is a weak person. Okay, like a weak as in financially and socially weak. To put pressure on the Prophet that is because of you they're getting tortured. Stop this preaching. Okay, that's actually very painful. Because if he was himself attacked, he could defend, he could easily defeat, right? But now they are attacking him. It's like emotional blackmailing, right? Your people, they're suffering because of the Khalifa of Abyssinia, right? It's not like a stretch to say that. But he, radiallahu anhu, was actually martyred the year he came back in the Battle of Mu'tah. So Ja'far's wife, the Prophet's sister-in-law in a way, right? As soon as they come back from Abyssinia, she comes to the wives of the Prophet, right? And she asks them, هَلْ نَزَلَ فِينَا شَيْءٌ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ? Is there anything revealed about women in the Quran? Okay? So this is like something that she thought of before she left for Abyssinia. That thought stayed with her in Abyssinia. And when she came back, that's what she's asking the wives of the Prophet. فَقِيلَ لَهَا لَا. It was told to her no. So she came to the Prophet فَأَتَتِ النَّبِيَّ صلى الله عليه وسلم فَقَالَتْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ إِنَّ النِّسَاءَ لَفِي خَيْبَةٍ وَخَسَارٍ. She said, O Messenger of Allah, the women are in a loss. So the Prophet said, مِمَّا ذَلِكَ. He said, like, in what way, right? قالت لأنهن لا يذكرن بالخير كما يذكر الرجال فأنزل الله هذه الآية. She said, because they are not mentioned in the Quran with good like the men are, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah. Okay? Fascinating part of the story is this lady thought of this for like almost a decade, this thought. And then she finally was able to get her answer from the Prophet ﷺ when she came back. Now, the thing that's to notice here is 3 prominent Sahaba, of the women of the Sahaba. We have narrations, like record of them coming and asking the Prophet ﷺ, why is the men mentioned more in the Quran and not women? Okay? And each time the Prophet responded with this ayah. Okay? The point of this is to show that there is spiritually both the genders are the same. In piety, they're the same. In sin, they are the same. Okay? Innal muslimina wal muslimat, submission to Allah. Okay? A man does not have more reward for submitting to Allah than a woman. Okay? It's not like the man gets twice the reward of a woman because they are submitting. No, they have the same. In fact, the reward is determined by difficulty and sincerity. Okay? Faith, وَالْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْقَانِتِينَ وَالْقَانِتَاتِ, obedience to Allah and His Messenger. These are again, you can say these are aspects of faith, aspects of what we believe in, right? Or how we believe. Okay? Being as-sadiqina was-sadiqat, being truthful. Truthful is a lifestyle. Saying it, acting upon it, never lying to get out of trouble, right? That's a lifestyle. It's the same for men and women. All the 10 categories repeat men and women, men and women. Even though it's not required. It's not required grammatically to do that. But it repeats 10 times, and that's very emphatic to make this point clear, that a believing man and a believing woman are the same in the sight of Allah, irrespective of their gender. What matters is their Islam, their submission to Allah, their iman, their faith, their commitment to obedience to the faith, right? Like stopping where Allah asks us to stop. That's an act of obedience. Truthfulness, that's a lifestyle. Saying the truth at all times, never trying to get out of trouble by hiding behind a lie. Being patient. You know, patience is demonstrated in tough times often, right? Easy times there's not much patience to be demonstrated. If I'm having all fun, I'm not really holding myself back, right? Patience is in holding yourself back in difficult moments. Giving charity. Giving charity, a woman would have just as much reward as a man. The only thing that determines the reward actually is how sincere they are, or how little or how much they have. Fasting, same thing. Both genders have the same reward. Chastity, same thing. It's not like one has more and one has less. Remembering Allah, the same. This ayah emphasizes this so much. two things to note here. One is that in Arabic, everything has a gender. It's either masculine or feminine. There's no like it in Arabic, okay? And there's no gender neutral pronoun. It's all he or she. Okay? That was a bad joke. Sorry, you got it. So it in Arabic also has to have like it has to be he or she. Okay. Now the interesting thing is, the default pronoun is he. Okay. The default pronoun is he. When Allah talks about something as he, right? That includes both genders. Okay. If the Prophet says, for example, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir, falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should say good or be silent. He's using the he pronoun here. Okay? He's using he. But that doesn't mean that this is exclusive for men. It includes both genders by default. That's actually the rule in Islam. That's the rule in Arabic, that's the rule in Islam, and that rule is based upon this ayah. Because this ayah makes it emphatically clear that in all of these things it's the same. The only difference arises is when something is specified for a gender. Like hijab, for example. Right? The ayah that talks about hijab, before that Allah says to the believing men, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم. Tell the believing men to lower their gaze, to basically not stare at a girl. That's what يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. It's not just looking down, because maybe you're looking down, you're looking at somebody, right? But here the idea is, يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ is not to stare at a girl, right? And not to actually, like we say, check a girl out, okay? وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم, and to protect their private parts, meaning remain chaste. Don't do things that will compromise your chastity, okay? Don't watch things that will compromise your chastity. Don't think thoughts that will compromise that. Okay? ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. That's pure. Okay? Then وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ. Same thing to the believing women as well. You know, don't stare, don't, check out a guy, and don't look or think thoughts that will compromise your chastity. Exactly the same thing. But then an additional thing is mentioned as well, which is وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا. And they should not display their beauty except what is apparent, meaning the face, the hand, etc., etc. Right? And then who can you display your beauty to? Right? That's what Allah Aslan describes a woman as. She is beautiful. The way she is, زِينَتَهُنَّ. It's like by default there. And who should it be displayed to? Should be displayed to their husbands and their fathers and so on and so forth, meaning the ones you don't have to wear hijab in front of, right? Not that you're dressing inappropriately in front of, say, like your brother or your father, right? But you don't have to wear hijab in front of them, right? Because they are your mahram, your blood. The idea is the gender is the same, or the ruling is the same for both genders if the he or masculine pronoun is used. Okay? And if there is some details, those details are specified specially for a gender, if it applies. Okay? That's the rule in Islam. And that rule comes from this ayah, according to the Mufassirin like Al-Qurtubi, and in fact, like almost by consensus, if not almost, definitely by like the consensus of the scholars of tafsir and the language. Okay? So like I said, for Sharia al-Islam, al-aslu fi shara'iha an ta'umma al-rijala wal-nisa. Okay? The Sharia is for both the men and the women. The pronoun that's used does not exclude a gender. إِلَّا مَا نُصَّ عَلَى تَخْصِيصِهِ بِأَحَدِ الصِّنْفَيْنِ, except what is specified for a particular gender. Okay? This is Ibn Ashur. Ibn Ashur is a contemporary scholar of tafsir. I believe he lived in the 70s and 80s, 1970s, 80s. He was from Morocco, if I'm not mistaken, and he was a great scholar, and he led the resistance against the French. Right? He was the one who led that resistance, but he wrote this magnificent tafsir that was like compiled, like as much as you can compile in one place. So he comments on this ayah, says that this idea, this ayah, is the precedence that our Sharia is built upon. Both the genders are addressed irrespective of which pronoun is used. Masculine or feminine, both genders are addressed. Or more precisely, both genders are addressed when the masculine pronoun is used, because that's the default in Arabic. Okay? The only time one of them is specified is when some detail is presented that specifies one and excludes the other. Like I gave you the example of the ayat of hijab. Okay? فأغنى عن التنبيه عليه في معظم أقوال القرآن والسنة. So this ayah تقرر أصل التسوية. This is the one that establishes that principle of the equality of addressing both genders with the pronoun of the masculine. Okay? And that's why in the other parts of Quran this is not mentioned. Okay? Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have to repeat every single time that أقيموا الصلاة وأقمنا الصلاة. Men establish prayer and women establish prayer. Allah says establish prayer and it includes both. Right? And that's how all of the Quran would be going forward. Okay? So that is point number 1 here. Point number 2 from this ayah is this is in piety and sin. They're the same. In spirituality, the same. It's not like this is like a a toxic cultural idea that a girl is more sinful and thus more shameful if she is promiscuous, and the boy is not. That's not an Islamic idea. You know why? Because the ayah says, وَالْحَافِظِينَ فُرُوجَهُمْ وَالْحَافِظَاتِ. The men who protect their chastity and the women who protect their chastity. Right? They're actually spiritually the same. Maybe it's harder for a guy, maybe it's harder for a girl. The reward is dependent on how hard it is. Okay? And at the same time, if one of them errs, right? If a that's the base, that's the ruling that this ayah establishes for us. Okay? Look at the idea of the ayat of hijab that I quoted to you. The men are told to not stare, the women are told not to stare. The men are told don't do things that will compromise your chastity. Right? Don't put yourself in a situation where you'll do stuff and then you regret it. Okay? And likewise the women. يغضضن من أبصارهن يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم يغضضن من أبصارهن ويحفظن فروجهن. Okay? It's the same. Additional details is how the women should dress are presented in the ayah afterwards. But the first two parts, if any of the genders compromise it, they're both equally sinful. And if they don't, they're both equally rewarded. Do you see? So this idea is that that somehow if a girl does something, if a girl's having an affair or she has a boyfriend or something, right, that's like a shame to the family. Okay? Well, if a boy has a girlfriend as well, that's also a shame to your family too. Equally bad. Okay? Zina is, irrespective of the gender, equally bad. Okay? It's not better or worse for one or the other. And this is not like some statement that like I'm making. This is the Quran's idea, right? The Quran has made it the same. That's one thing to observe from this ayah. Also, on top of that, to add to this discourse, is there's 4 places in the Quran where Allah mentions men and women like that. Okay? And when He talks about it, He talks about it in a very specific context. For example, He says in Surah number 40, Surah Ghafir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَنْ عَمِلَ سَيِّئَةً فَلَا يُجْزَى إِلَّا مِثْلَهَا. Whoever does something that's sinful, then they are going to be held accountable for that sin. Okay? If a person is punished in the afterlife, or there is some like tragedy that they incur because of their mistakes and sins, then it's because of what it's equivalent to what they have done. It's nothing more. Allah does not punish more than you deserve. Okay? Or the gravity of the sin determines the punishment. Likewise, also in dealings, right? If I was to take revenge, I can only take revenge to the extent that I was hurt. If I transgress and try to take more, that is actually not allowed in Islam. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ يُرْزَقُونَ فِيهَا بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. But the one who does good from a man or a woman, from men or women, as long as وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, that person believes, that person has iman, they're doing good out of conviction for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of conviction in Islam, out of the desire to please Allah. Then these are the people, يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ, they will enter paradise, and they will be given in paradise without any accountability, like without any record, as much as you want. Whatever you want, as much as you want. يُرْزَقُونَ فِيهَا بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. The thing to notice here is, Allah mentions men and women here. Again, to highlight the point that when it comes to the idea of good and evil, it's the same. Genders are the same. It's not, there's no, if a man does something, it's better, like there's more good in it than if a woman does it. There's less good in it. Or if a woman does something that's more evil, and the man did it, it will be less evil. No, the Quran says they're the same, and when they do good, it's actually because of their iman. That's what determines the reward. And as long as that's there, that person, irrespective of the gender, is entered into paradise. Likewise, in ayah number 97 of Surah 16, Surah Nahl, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. Very similar expression. Whoever does good, man or woman, and he is a believer. Meaning, the reason for doing good is iman. That's what's driving the good. Another way to express it is that maybe you are a good person and you do good, but iman puts that into like an extra gear, takes it to the next level. Okay? فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا. Then we will make this person live a good life. وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And we will give them their reward in the best possible way. In this life they will live a good life, and the next life they will get the reward according to the best of what they did. And this is an amazing thing from Allah. It's not like all of our good is added and the average is how we're treated. All the good is there, the best thing we ever did. Everything else is rewarded as if we did it like the best that we ever did. وَلَا نَجِزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Right? Imagine, there's 10 prayers you prayed, okay? And 9 were horrible, okay? But one was awesome. You were crying and you were focused. All 10 of them, Allah will give you reward like that one really awesome one. Right? That's out of the great mercy and forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His great rahmah, His love for us. So it فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Thing to notice again, men and women, both are mentioned in the ayah. Again implying what? It doesn't matter what your gender is. What matters is the excellence that you do it with, the iman that you do it with. Right? Another ayah, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. You see how they're all very similar expressions? فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَقِيرًا. Ayah number 124 from Surah An-Nisa, from Surah number 4. Whoever does good, man or woman, as long as they're a believer, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, iman is what's causing it, then that person is entering paradise and they will not be shortchanged. وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَقِيرًا, not even the slightest amount. Last one is from Surah Al-Imran. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ أَنِّي لَا أُضِيعُ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِّنْكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى. I'm not going to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to the dua of, there's a dua before this ayah, and Allah is saying that He is responding to their dua. He's accepted their dua, the people making the dua there. And He is saying, I am not going to waste anyone's action. Any good you do, that will not go wasted, that will not go unnoticed. All of it will be rewarded, min dhakarin wa untha, whether a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if it's a man who does good, doesn't matter if it's a woman who does good. The response from Allah is there, the record of it is in Allah's record, and it won't go unrewarded. It won't go unrewarded. But the ayat before talk about people who Allah says are people of ulul albab, people of sound mind, very clear thoughts. These are the ones who الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. They are remembering Allah at all times. And they are thinking about the creation of the skies and the earth. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. They think about how all this came into existence. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Our Lord, you did not create this for no purpose. You created this with a purpose, with a ending, with a next life. فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. So save us from the fire of hell. Okay? So this ayah is not just like some men thinking about this. This is actually, the gender is not mentioned. This could be a man, this could be a woman. Because Allah says, really, after this dua ends, He says, أَنِّي لَا أُضِيعُ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِّنْكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَى. Whether you're a man or a woman, your dua is answered, your actions are rewarded, nothing will be wasted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is that's the thing that's the foundation of Iman that this ayah establishes for. Number one, spiritually, there is equality. Okay? Spiritually, there is equality. Sin, equally liable. Good, equally rewarded. Right? The gender does not play a part. Let me rephrase this. Sorry. Sin, a person is liable for it, irrespective of their gender. Okay? It is just as bad for one as the other. Good is rewarded, irrespective of gender. What determines the level of good is how sincere, how dedicated, how much that person had to go through to do it, right? That's what determines the level of the reward. This is what the ayah establishes. Number one. Number two, the ayah establishes the Quran addresses both genders by default. Okay? Doesn't have to include he/she. It's always he/she. The only times it's not is when something specific is there. And the third thing, and that's something we'll inshallah wrap up with inshallah, is the Sahabiyat felt this way, right? The female Sahabiyat also felt it. They're like, what's up with this? Why aren't the women mentioned? At least three of them asked the Prophet this question. The Prophet's wife, Salama, Umara, the Ansari Sahabiya, who lived in Medina, the native of Medina, and the Prophet's sister-in-law, right? Ja'far's wife. This is actually the Prophet's sister-in-law, right? This is the lady who asked this question after she comes back from Africa to Medina. This is, the women are mentioned, not mentioned in the Quran like the men are, and the Prophet then explained to her that, in fact, to the contrary, they are mentioned. Because it's the same for both genders. Wallahu a'lam. Now that doesn't mean, of course, that everything is exactly identical. As we've discussed in the opening, there are those significant differences in the rulings, right? And that is inshallah what we'll discuss next time. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, the rulings, how they differ, and the wisdom behind it, and how we understand them, inshallah. Right? And I gave you the example of inheritance, just to give you, just to pique your interest, inshallah. Okay. That I'll stop. If you have any questions or comments, please ask, and then next time I'll give some more of those examples. Questions or comments?
I was curious, is it considered gossiping? Let's say if you talk about someone famous who's doing corruption or Allah Alam. Let's say how family members come and say, oh, so president or prime minister, so.
Yeah.
Is that considered gossiping?
Yeah, is that considered? That's a very good question.
I mean,
It's
you're not saying it in front of everyone, and you're not like stopping the zulm, and you're not saying,
yeah.
oh, so and so is doing zulm. It's not. It's just in a private setting, and you're not really stopping
Any evil, yeah. So here is the thing. There is the there's like there's this gossiping often is to do with a person's personal life that's unrelated to their public life, for example, right? So a person who's a prime minister, or an imam, or so on and so forth, has taken a public role, okay? Because they're a public figure, right? This is even before Facebook gives them a check to say they're a public figure, okay? So whatever they do publicly is open to discussion and is open to scrutiny, right? But what they do privately should not be. That's the differentiating factor, right? Because if you start to say, well, this is a backbiting, gossiping, then you can never ever discuss actually what a person who's publicly doing, whether that's right or wrong, because you're always talking behind their back, right? And then ideas can never be developed, right? Imam Bukhari is actually like the most amazing at this, right? Because Imam Bukhari's job was to criticize people. Did you know that? That's what is called Ilmul Rijal. Imam Bukhari has many books.
The most Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim.
No. So Imam Bukhari's most famous book is
Sahih Bukhari.
Sahih Bukhari. But then his second most famous book that not many people know of is it's called Tarikhul Kabir, the Big History. Okay, and that is him writing biographies of every single person who he could compile an encyclopedia of men from his time to the time of the Prophet ﷺ, who would narrate hadith. Okay, and Imam Bukhari wrote this under the light of the moon. Do you know what that means? He didn't have money to buy like lamp, right? So he would sit, wait for like it to be the 13th, 14th, 15th night, and under the light of the moon, like the cloudless sky and the full bright moon, he would use the light to work under that and finish his work under that time. Yeah. Could you do it at the afternoon, right? Of course, he's working on it the whole day.
I mean, not to be disrespectful.
Yeah, no. The idea is he's working on it like day and night.
Okay.
But when the night comes, he can't work on it because there's no light.
Oh.
So the nights where there is light because of the moon, that's when he's working like 24/7. That was what I was trying to tell you. Now,
I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
I know you're not.
Genuinely curious.
The interesting thing is, in that book, Imam Bukhari said something that became like a expression. If someone was not an authentic or a questionable character, right? A questionable character, the Imam Bukhari would say, "Fihi nadhar." There's more details about this person. Look again, basically. And him saying "look again" about a person was his way of saying, I wouldn't accept hadith from this man. Okay? So let me finish. So he is now commenting publicly on a person. He's narrating hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. His name is going to go in the narrations, public record, right? And we have to ask like about where did you get this? How good was your memory? And also how good of a person are you? Because all that plays a role into can you be fit to transmit the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ or not. But the way he talks about people's character is so beautiful because he doesn't want to sully their name or comment on their private lives, right? So he would comment very gently, and his expressions became like how people would figure out, right? So short answer is gossiping, if it's private lives, completely out of bounds. If it's something they did publicly, then we should be able to discuss it respectfully without being abusive, right? Yeah, let's take sisters and then sort of the idea. Sorry.
Okay, but like sometimes maybe like public figures have like I don't know these like conversations or whatever where like they're I don't know betraying like their country or betraying like certain things that those are like they were supposed to be private. So
Yeah. So when I say public, I say like anything related to their job, right? So think of like I don't know, like a Muslim prime minister or something, right? And then he's like a corrupt man or something. That's not that difficult to think about. So, but he's hiding his corruption. But now it's leaked that he was, stealing money. That should be an outrage because this is the money of the people, right? and there's nothing preventing us from talking about it. But then to start attacking that person's children, right? If they're like innocent in this situation, if they're like part of the corruption, if they're part of like this his organization, that's a different problem, right? Or commenting on his like private life, or commenting on, oh, he can't even read Surah Fatiha, right? This is like often like, you know, oh, how can this guy be a leader of Muslims? He can't even read Surah Fatiha. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter as long as he can, you know, govern with justice and be competent, right? Like him not reading Surah Fatiha is his problem. He's gonna have to be answer to Allah about it, not to us, right? But not like the public role, whatever that entails, has to be, you know, discussed, and outrage is necessary for change sometimes, right? Allah. Sartaj, you were saying something about Imam Bukhari?
Were you talking about a specific person? Just right there?
Well, who can read Surah Fatiha?
No, yeah.
I mean, like there's
Nawaz
so many-
Sharif? Because I feel like you were talking about it. Like,
There's so many-
everyone brought his kids into this situation. That's why.
There's so many like Pakistani politicians that are always on like my dad's TV screen. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this?
South Asian
Right.
Prince and GeoTV. The
Right.
worst. But so I was curious, and you kind of already touched on this. But so I'll switch to something a bit more relevant. So, it is a bit off topic, but what happens when a member of the Ummah, or you know what, specifically a member of the ulama, has done something inappropriate in their private life? So I think you might be aware of what the controversy around Sheikh Noman Ali Khan, right?
Yeah.
And so even though he's not formally educated in Hadith sciences and Islamic scholarship, we can still agree that he had a huge impact on a lot of people, possibly millions, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens with someone who, you know, has been publicly, like, and irrefutably been condemned by other alim, but other member of the ulama for his actions? They were proven to be true.
Yeah.
So like what happens? Like, do I not watch like his like YouTube videos anymore? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. You see, so that's a really good question. That's a really tricky thing. Okay. Let me give you like an analogous answer. Okay. Because this is a question. It's not like a halal haram question, by the way, right? So if a person does not like what they did is halal haram, no, but like, can I still learn from that person?
Yeah,
Right?
that's the
not,
essence of my
That's not necessarily a halal haram question. The question is more of like an ethical question.
Yeah, like,
Right.
is it worth considering it if the source has been proven to be sullied?
Right. Now, there is scholars. So when I went to Egypt, I was studying with this sheikh, whose mosque was like very, like, it was a small but a very powerful organization that he had. And I would go to his mosque and attend lectures and whatnot. And then it turned out that when the coup happened, right, many years later, this man was like the snake in the sleeve, so to say, right? Like he was pretending to always be with like the Dr. Morsi and the actually like the officially elected president, and then when it comes time to like, you know, stand up, or when it came to that coup, the ringleader turned out to be this guy.
Right.
Right? And this is like an imam, like a mega imam, right? Who's you would expect that they would all be together because they had like similar interests.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, and then there's a whole bunch of these people that showed up, right? So I would never listen to a lecture by those people. I would no more, like, even though I went to their masjids, I would never listen to a lecture by them. Because I consider that to be, like, you have partaken in oppression, right? Irrespective of the policy of this government or that person, but you have actually done something, in my opinion, that's oppressive. You've supported an oppressor, you've overthrown a legitimately elected government, and then all the people that got killed, you didn't say anything about it. Right? You didn't utter a word about it. And the mistreatment of the people, again, their policy doesn't matter, right? Because there's much worse policy in the world, right? Nobody does that to like those people, right? But just at a human and a basic civil rights level, you have supported oppression. And I don't want to be part of that.
So
right?
can I follow up and ask, what about, and I'm gonna like be pretty vocal about this, so I think his name was Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Baz.
Yeah.
So he was a very notable Saudi scholar, member of the
Mufti of
ulama.
Saudi Arabia,
Yeah, he was the Grand Mufti of the Haram. And so he was the one that enabled so much dhulm against the world. You know, he was the one that kind of said it was okay for the French special forces to temporarily convert to Islam in the wake of the 1979 Hajj crisis. He was the one that gave the fatwa that permitted U.S. soldiers to be stationed in the Holy Land, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like controversial religious aspects, and I'm not really interested in that, but more so someone who I don't fundamentally agree with, who's endorsed a family with a nature of oppression and injustice, right?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to like publicly say that I don't follow these ulama? I don't care whether they're the member, whether they, you know, whether they're the Grand Mufti of the holiest spot on earth, right? Do I have that like right as a Muslim?
Yeah. Sorry. By the way, like if Hamdallah needs to leave, by all means, thank you for coming by. And again, next week we'll have the part 2 of this discussion, inshallah, right? So if you want to stick around for this, more than welcome to it.